Greetings and salutations, guys. Eric here, and it is my favorite time of the year, which is Halloween season in general, but Halloween Horror Nights season specifically. I'm a huge fan of Universal Horror Nights, and I've been going for many years, both out here in Los Angeles at Universal Studios Hollywood, but also out in Florida at Universal Orlando Resort. Went out there last weekend to Florida, which opens a week before us, and checked everything out. And I went on the media event on opening night Friday, went back the next night to check it out, not filming this time, just to kind of take it all in and get a second take on it all. And I loved it. I thought this was such a great year. I thought there was not a dud in the bunch of these houses. And, it was an interesting year because going in, there was a couple less of Hollywood IP houses than normal, but they do a great job every year with their original concept houses too. And yeah, I'm also not a person, by the way, who always thinks that scary equals good for the houses. I love when they are, but I also think that sometimes the houses are great when they're not scary, just the spectacle of it, the visuals of it. And I think that they really deliver on that regard at Universal Orlando and with the sort of scale that they can work on inside those sound stages. So yeah, really enjoyed this year. This is my rankings of all 10 from my least favorite to the biggest favorite of the bunch. Excuse the video quality because I shot it on my iPhone and it's kind of blurry and definitely dark, especially in the houses that were the darkest. Also, listening to myself on VO and on these YouTube videos, I say and a hell of a lot. I should probably work on that for you, but also for me. Anyway, this is the rankings of the Universal Orlando version of Halloween Horror Nights 2024. Check it out. At number 10, we've got Triplets of Terror. The idea here was basically to create a new slasher movie type scenario, and I think that's really awesome. I just think the execution, no pun intended, was a little ho-hum. The idea that these three kids on their 9th birthday in the 1980s killed their family and they come back every 10 years, that's a pretty good, fun one. It does remind me a bit of a Bloody Birthday from 1981. If you've ever seen that, check it out. It's a super fun movie. But yeah, there's just something about this house that didn't really pop for me. However, you see the scale here for Horror Nights right from the get-go because you walk in and just having that police car right outside the house facade, really great way to enter the whole thing. And there's some, a pretty cool little vignette throughout. I do wish the introduction of the podcast, that's the modern day podcast covering these killings, was a little better integrated once you see it. But yeah, just okay for me, but I will say I very much enjoyed the character of Harmony Barmy. She is the triplet who wears the bunny mask, and she has such a great little creepy laugh that she pops in and out doing throughout the house. Oh! See, that's just Harmony enjoying life and killing. At number 9, we have the Museum Deadly Exhibits, in which a museum has a new artifact on display called the Rotting Stone. Turns out you don't want a rotting stone in your museum because it will bring everything to life and it will kill you. I just thought that this one, while just okay, there visually was a lot to look at. I liked that the effects were a huge mixture of how they would do them, from sort of more elaborate displays to just having some stuff moving around on the walls to the people in the creature costumes. I liked this sort of ongoing effect of the rotting, glowing look across the walls, showing that this thing had spread throughout the entire museum. There's some fun with scare actors playing the poor museum staff having a very bad day at work. So not a highlight particularly, but I think really kind of goes to show you that even the lower level houses this year had something cool about them. I mean, this was just kind of a fun one to check out, to walk through and look at all the different things that they had going on. And once or twice, they got me with a pretty good scare. All right, so moving to number 8, and honestly, the time where I think that everything from here on out is a strong house, is a good, if not great house. This one was interesting, though, which is Monstros, the Monsters of Latin America, because this house was done in Universal Hollywood last year, and it was easily one of the very best, if not the best house last year. So I'm ranking it number 8. Clearly, it wasn't one of my very favorites in the Orlando version, but I'm just glad that it took off so much in Hollywood that they're doing it in Orlando this year, and they're going to do a follow-up in Hollywood that I'm very excited to see this coming weekend. And so once again, it's the same sort of basic overall concept as far as we are diving into three different creatures, three different monsters from Latin American legend. And it's really cool and creepy and atmospheric. I just really love the vibe of this house. Now, I don't think it is as freaky as the one in Hollywood was last year, which I think was just really scary and just so sort of unsettling. This one I don't think quite captures that, but I still think that just, yeah, very atmospheric, very cool to walk through. Certainly dark. There is, mother grieving for her baby that has been stolen. These very different creatures that all have cool looks, and then the scale gets pretty damn big, literally, by the end with some of these creatures. So yeah, I just really enjoyed this, and I really love Muerte, who is kind of our guide, our crypt keeper like guide, who takes us through. He just seems like a chill guy. I mean, come on, he's just hanging out, singing at one point. So yeah, I am pro Muerte. I am pro Monstros. I'm really glad they brought it to Orlando, and it's kind of becoming a original concept franchise for Halloween Horror Nights. And that's great. And yeah, I'm excited to see that continue. Number 7, we've got Goblin's Feast. Sometimes a house can be pretty straightforward and just work because of the approach. And I think this is a great example of that, because basically you're walking into a goblin village. All the goblins are eating people, and they want more people to eat, and that's all it is, and that's fine because it looks great, and you just really feel like you've stepped into this super dark fairy tale world. The goblins are all depicted in different shapes and forms. You just really feel like this is like you're looking into this sort of Grimm's fairy tale storybook, very, very nasty one, and I love that about it. I love the giant goblin hand at one point to depict part of a huge goblin that there was a video face for that I completely failed to capture on video, but that was a fun aspect as well. They use scare actors, mostly as goblins, but then a couple times as the poor humans that are trapped amongst them. Also, there was some good scares in this one. In fact, there was a few scares right on top of each other that got my wife and I pretty damn well. So yeah, I the first night actually, I had this in my top 4. Lowered it a little second night, but I still just really appreciated it. I just thought that I'd read the actual fairy tale if one was written about these goblins, or watch a really messed up animated movie about them and their hearty appetites. The food is escaping! Number 6 is Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. For several years now, Horror Nights has been doing Universal Monsters based houses, and I really love how they are expanding upon everything we know about the Universal Monsters, not only revamping their looks, but giving them new stories, new confrontations, and this is a fun idea this year because it is all female-based characters. So they invent a new one, Saskia Van Helsing, the last descendant of Abraham Van Helsing, team her up with the Bride of Frankenstein and have them fight Dracula's daughter and a bunch of other female vampires and the She-Wolf of London and the female version of the Mummy in a big monster mash. And there's some continuations here from the Bride of Frankenstein Lives house from a few years ago that actually depicted Bride of Frankenstein has a vampire hunter. So I really like when they can kind of expand upon this lore they're building. I love the Universal Monsters, and so I'm always thrilled to get to go through this house. I don't think this is one of the very best of the Universal Monsters houses. Actually, the Bride of Frankenstein Lives was a particular favorite of mine. I really liked the one last year that had the Phantom of the Opera and a bunch of other really old school characters, predating even the advent of sound in film. But this is still another really cool one. Saskia is a great new invention, giving them this new vampire hunter character. And I like all the little confrontations we see throughout. I just wish I had captured the Bride of Frankenstein better. But hey, here's a glimpse of her. So yeah, always happy to get new Universal Monsters content here at Horror Nights, and this is another cool one. Number 5 is A Quiet Place. I was very intrigued by this one going in because Quiet Place is such a specific, unique franchise. The use of sound is so integral, or lack thereof, depending on the sequence. And so, yeah, it was cool to sort of see how they did this one. And not only did they kind of play with the audio, they took away any ambient music. There is a song played near the end, but it's kind of an in-universe song, if you know Quiet Place Part 2. But they also made it very dark in there. In fact, at the beginning of the house, there is a pitch black sequence in a hallway to kind of take everything away from you. It is very unsettling. It doesn't last too long. Followed by an awesome title card reveal. I want to say title card. Has a shout out to Dead Meat. Yeah, you know, they've done this before with the big title cards on some of the houses, but I like how this one is kind of after a prologue. It's almost like there's a pre-credit sequence to the house at Horror Nights. This is one where I do wish it were a little scarier. Like I said, I don't need my houses at Horror Nights to be scary to be effective and kind of accomplish a lot. This one I just thought should have been a little scarier. But that aside, it's really cool. It is really like you're walking through there. It doesn't look great on video because it is so dark. But yeah, you really kind of feel like you were walking through the movie. I really love when they can do that. And this one has those parts where you're just like, oh, this is the middle of a scene. I am walking through the middle of a familiar sequence from A Quiet Place or A Quiet Place Part 2. It takes you through the first 2 movies. So yeah, I really like that. And the way they use the creatures was cool. You know, I think that is one reason maybe it's not as scary, because it is hard to be scary with big animatronics, big puppets. They're really impressive. It's just when you don't have a human person who can kind of move quite as fluid and really kind of come at you, it can't get you quite as well. But I still thought with the sound effects, with the lighting, they still managed to make it very creepy and very much like you were walking through the world of these 2 films. And having loved the prequel Day One this summer, I'd love if they could revisit this franchise and do a Day One house at some point. My number 4 pick is Slaughter Cinema 2. You know, look, personal mileage will vary about how much you enjoy purposely cheesy stuff. I'm all in on it. And I love that they did a follow-up to this. Slaughter Cinema was a house in 2018 that took you through all these sort of mini looks at different imagined B movies, or as our tour guide told us the other night, C movies, D movies even. They now did a second one. Same thing. It's just 1, maybe 2 rooms at most for these. You're just getting a little glimpse at all these wonderfully corny and cheesy throwback style drive-in movie exploitation films that don't exist. But I'd watch them all if they did. Yeah, this one was just completely up my alley. When you've got a house called Heavy Metal Hell in 3D, or as the guy doing the intro voice says much better than me, Heavy Metal Hell, all hell. Look, yeah, I'm in. I had a great time in this. Killer Kringles, the evil Santa and Mrs. Claus house was great. You know, they're not all hits. I mean, it's coming at you rapid fire. So if Night of the Undead Clowns seems a little less inspired, don't worry. Hatchet and Chains, Demon Bounty Hunters is coming right after to deliver something much more entertaining. And come on, who would resist a movie called Mummy Strippers Unwrapped? Universal, you gotta make it. You have a Mummy franchise. Go for it. Oh, and huge bonus points to the Horror Nights team for going the extra mile and making actual trailers, fake trailers for their fake movies that run when you're outside waiting in the queue to get into Slaughter Cinema 2.
I know you're awake. I know you're not sleeping.
Number 3 is Major Sweets Candy Factory. I might keep this one a little shorter just because I messed up and forgot to record the first half of this house at all, which sucks because I really like the intro to it and the candy factory you walk into. I love that this is connected to a scare zone from a couple of years ago at Horror Nights. Again, Horror Nights is great at building out its own lore, its own characters. In this case, the evil Major Sweets and his assistant, Miss Treats. and the horrible, despicable things they do to children and turning them into murderers and murdering people. Also, I already told you I'm a sucker for sort of retro stuff, and I love that there's kind of a 1950s aesthetic to a lot of this, but mixed with just horrific imagery, really nasty stuff of candy and murder all jumbled up, as you do. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet, just like Major Sweets would like for this one, but to say that, this was one I really liked, and I really liked that you could smell the sweet candy. They definitely went big on the sickeningly sweet scent in this house, and I thought it added a great touch.
That's a simple rush.
Number 2 is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and man, what a big surprise this is for me to be saying it's number 2. I went in with such low expectations for this house. Look, I love Ghostbusters, and I thought Horror Nights did a really great job with Ghostbusters a few years ago, doing a house based on the original movie, which, got to mix a lot of comedic elements with some scares, but Frozen Empire was just such a lackluster movie, I thought. And so it didn't excite me to have them tackle this particular installment as a house. So I just kind of went in with whatever feeling. I don't know. Maybe the Horror Nights team knew people were going to go in like that, because they went big in every sense of the word. The scale of this house is awesome. The production design of this house is awesome. There are moments in it that I kind of thought, oh yeah, I should have thought that would have made a good Horror Nights bit, like the actual depiction of all the frozen people in the early 1900s, which is right from the movie, but it looks great as part of Horror Nights house, and they mix in some actual big scares in that too. And then throughout the whole thing, it all looks great. You get all the characters from the movie, for the most part. Podcast, welcome to a Horror Nights house. Great to see you.
Sorry, lady. Sorry, lady.
And then the reveal of the actual Ghostbusters headquarters. Listen, you can hear my reaction right here, followed by the scare that they include. So yeah, that was incredible. Maybe the highlight, but the whole thing looks great. Ecto-1 smashing through the wall is great. There's a lot of nods and elements included from the entire series throughout. Just, Easter eggs galore. Great job by all the scare actors playing all these familiar characters. I had such a good time in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Didn't expect it at all. And now I'm just so glad that they did it, because sometimes you can take a movie that wasn't so great and do something pretty great with it. So kudos to the Horror Nights team on this one.
Excuse me, just where do you think you're going?
And finally, number 1, Insidious The Further. Another surprise, another one that I would not have expected to be as high as it was. I like the Insidious movies, but I'm not a huge fan of them. Also, Insidious has been done a lot at Horror Nights. It's actually been done, I think, 3 times before at Hollywood, at least a couple times at Orlando. So it kind of felt like, what else is there left to do with Insidious? And because I wasn't a huge fan of it, I wasn't that psyched for it. Wow. This was a true haunted house. Like, this was the one that scared the hell out of everyone. And while you'll never get everyone agreeing completely, a lot of people seem to say that this was their favorite one, and I completely get it, because it's kind of unrelenting. I mean, there's a cool sort of slow build at the beginning.
Now go outside. Let my voice be your guide. Keep a steady stride. Into the further we go.
And then once you are in it, you are in it. There is just constant things coming at you in the dark. And I really like this one because it's not only jump scares. Like, jump scares are great. A good jump scare will get you every time. But this one understands that if there's just like creepy people around in the shadows, looking at you, smiling at you, like, look at that scare actor. Stellar work. It can just get you. And then when they're right after each other, whether it's a jump scare, a creepy person standing there, both, wonderful. It will get. There were some girls behind us screaming their heads off during this, which added to the fun. But when I did it again the next night without them, it was still really damn scary. And so, I just was so really impressed but surprised as well, because I did not expect the Insidious house to go this hard, and they really did. I want an Insidious movie to be this level of terrifying, because if it was, I think this would suddenly rocket up to the top of my favorite horror franchises. All right, guys, there you have it. Those were my rankings of all 10 of the houses at Universal Orlando Resort's version of Halloween Horror Nights in 2024. But I'm going this coming weekend to Hollywood, Universal Hollywood's opening night. So I'll be checking out all their houses, and I will be doing a ranking of those next week. I'm very excited to see that. It's always interesting to see the differences, what's similar, what's very different, because even if they're doing the same conceptual house, they do it in a different way. So you can check that out next week. That's it for now. Thanks. And if you can like and subscribe, that would be great as well. Happy Halloween. I mean, I know we got several weeks, but happy Halloween season to all who celebrate. And I hope that's all of you. Take care.